Hi, Jeremy here with MathomBooks with another Battle of the Books for you guys. This is my Battle of the Books number 2. It's with sequels. Here goes. This video contains spoilers. Be careful. If you have not read Delirium or Divergent, do not watch these videos. If you guys remember from my first Battle of the Books video, I compared the book number 1 and book number 2 of these series. Book number 1 being Delirium by Lauren Oliver, and book number 2 was Divergent by Veronica Roth. These, of course, are the sequels to those books. Just like the first video, I had 9 categories that I compared the books in. This time I'm throwing in an added bonus, a 10th category, and that's going to be which book leaves you hanging on a better cliffhanger, a more intense, a steeper cliff. And so we'll talk about that at the end of this video. Here goes. Okay, so the first category that I'm looking at is which book has the better cover. And again, I'm going with the hardcover edition of these books. Sorry, I've got flies flying around right now. But I give this one to Pandemonium by Lauren Oliver. If you look at the whole thing, you can see it's very colorful. And because there's a portion of this book that takes place out in the wilds, for her to be surrounded by flora and fauna is actually a kind of an important element. And so I really like this. If you recall, I gave the better cover to Divergent last time. But the book cover for Insurgent, which this is not exactly it, but you get the idea. You guys have all seen it. It's good. I like it. But it didn't do it for me. So I'm going to give my favorite cover this time to Pandemonium. So, in the last video I gave, when it comes to world building, which book had a better world building, I actually gave it to Delirium. This time, might surprise you, I'm going to give it to Insurgent by Veronica Roth. I really believe that Veronica Roth does a much better job in this book of explaining the different factions. We get to travel with Triss and Four to a number of the different factions, including Amity. One really great element about Insurgent that I want to bring out, because I think it's important, is Veronica Roth kind of has a great metaphor for what I see as a very common teenage dilemma, and that is exactly the story of what Triss goes through, and that is she starts off as abnegation, which is you kind of deny yourself and you submit to others, you do what you're told, like children do, right? Like you do when you're young. And then she becomes dauntless, this fearless person, someone who's a little bit more wild and taking chances, kind of like an adolescent, right? Someone that's out there experiencing new things and not willing to always listen to what they're told. And that's kind of the story here of Triss, right? It's almost like this perfect YA story, at least in terms of the character development of Triss. And I really thought that was interesting. Which of these books had a better plot? And the book that I am going to choose for that is Pandemonium. I loved how Lauren Oliver, she breaks the story up into the now story, what's happening right now, and the then story. The then story is basically her struggle to learn how to survive out in the wilds. I'm going to try not to give too much away in these videos, but you know, she has to spend some time out in the wilds, and that's the then story. The now story is she is working as an insurgent, which is kind of funny, an anti-establishment person, and she is undercover, so to speak, just like Alex was in Delirium. If you remember in the first video, I gave plot as a wash. I thought both stories were very interesting. But Insurgent, I feel like Veronica Roth gets a little bit bogged down. I felt like most of the time in Insurgent, they're just kind of meandering around. And yeah, it's interesting for world building, and there is some more character development, but it just didn't quite do it for me plot-wise. Which book had better romance? Yep, again, Pandemonium. Pandemonium brings in a character named Julian. He's a very interesting character. I like this guy a lot. He's a really, really cool character. I think he connected with Lena on a much deeper level, and it was a very beautiful thing to see. You might be wondering, well, there's a lot of romance in Insurgent too. Yes, there is, but I think it's all caught up in this one phrase, and she moved her hands to the small of his back. count how many times that is said in Insurgent. She does it again and again and again. She's constantly touching Four's back. I just got tired of it. So for the next category, which book has the better action? If you remember from the first video, I gave the action went to Divergent. It switches places. The next category that I'm looking at is writing quality. If you remember, I gave better writing quality to Delirium, to Lauren Oliver last time. This time, it's a wash. I think both of these books have great writing quality. I almost want to say that Lauren Oliver's Pandemonium, she kind of went away from some of the elements that I really enjoyed so much about Delirium. There's no more quotes from the book of Shh, and I had some trouble with the then and now. I was definitely much more interested in the now portion of the story. Whereas in Insurgent, I felt that there were some really beautiful moments. I thought that Veronica Roth kind of raised the stakes a bit in the describing the relationships between Triss and Four, and brought in the new character Lynn. I really like her attitude. And so I'm going to give this to both of them. Writing quality, a wash. So the next category is which book ends on a better cliffhanger. Both of these stories, Insurgent and Pandemonium, end in cliffhangers. Which one is just completely crazy and just knocks you off your seat? If you were to look up cliffhanger in the dictionary, you will see the ending to this book. It literally comes down to the last page, the last sentence, the last word. It's amazing. So, overall, the final category, which book do I think is the better book? Which book should you just run out today and buy? And after you've read the first in the series, you'll read these. Which one's it going to be? Pandemonium, Insurgent, Pandemonium, Insurgent, Pandemonium. So, I give the best book overall to Pandemonium, but I just want to say a couple of things really quick, especially if Lauren Oliver is watching this. I would love to bring back Hannah. Where is Hannah? And also, the quotations at the beginning of each chapter, they were not in this book either, and I really thought those were great and creative, and I hope that Lauren Oliver goes back to those for her third book. And I'm really excited for you guys to read both Insurgent and Pandemonium, because I want to get your thoughts. I would love your comment. Leave me your comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing to MathomBooks, and I'm looking forward to your videos.